Welcome to this lecture on analyzing definition essays. This is Professor Carpenter from Valencia College. Here are our lesson objectives. We'll discuss the cultural and historical context of sample definition essays, analyze definition essays for examples of figurative language and descriptive details. In this lesson, we'll look at two definition essays in your 75 Readings Plus textbook, Joe Goodwin Parker's What is Poverty and Dagoberto Gilb's Pride. So when you hear the word poverty, you will bring up images from your own personal experiences, from the news, from all that you have heard or read or experienced. It may be images such as these of poor children in Africa, or of people in America holding up signs, lost my job, have 2 children to feed. If you grew up poor, or you know people who are poor, it can be memories of what it's like to be poor. In addition to the images we have of poverty in our mind, we also bring our perceptions of why people are poor. If we have not experienced poverty ourselves, the word is an abstract concept. We know of poverty, but we haven't experienced it. We may have perceptions of why people are poor. Is it circumstances beyond their control, a lack of effort, a lack of education or opportunity? We may even have judgments of people who are poor. So Joe Goodwin Parker's essay, What is Poverty, gives us the perspective of a person who experiences poverty on a daily, personal, and emotional level. This is not an abstract concept to this author, and she begs us to listen to her. Notice how the author opens the essay with a question. You ask me what is poverty? As if this question is absurd. It's such a daily, hourly experience for her that she cannot believe you're asking. And notice also in red that she repeats listen to me and hear me several times in her introduction to emphasize the fact that many people do not want to hear her or they think they know what poverty is. And she lets you know right away she's going to tell you honestly what it is, and she pleads with you to listen. So just a little background on where this essay came from. When George Henderson, a professor at the University of Oklahoma, was writing his 1971 book, America's Other Children, he received this essay in the mail, and it was simply signed Joe Goodwin Parker, and it had been mailed from West Virginia. But no further information was ever discovered about the essay or its author. So let's look back at the essay, and these are excerpts from the actual essay itself. We've talked about descriptive details and how powerful they can be, and we've talked about showing and not telling about something. So notice how the author uses descriptions that use the senses. Here she details the smells of poverty, and she details them so vividly that we almost want to turn away. She tells us that poverty smells of urine, sour milk, spoiling food, sometimes joined with the strong smell of long-cooked onions. She tells us that poverty smells like an outdoor privy or mattresses where years of accidents have happened, and it smells of rotting garbage. So we already get a sense of the smells of poverty, and she paints a picture very, very vividly. Her sensory details paint a picture of what poverty looks like and feels like and sounds like. It feels you can feel her hands cracked and red. You can see insects in her food and in your nose and in your eyes. You can feel insects crawling over you when you sleep. And she begs us to put yourself in my dirty, worn-out, ill-fitting shoes and hear me. So as you read the essay, notice how the author starts each paragraph by defining poverty in different ways. Look at the red. Poverty is being tired. Poverty is dirt. It's staying up all night on cold nights to watch the fire, knowing one spark on the newspaper covering the walls means your sleeping child dies in flames. It's asking for help. The evidence that Parker provides is overwhelming of her details of her personal experience of being poor. Her evidence is her daily struggle with life, and she shares that with us. Notice the metaphors that author uses for what poverty is. It's remembering. It's looking into a bleak future. It's an acid that drips on pride until all pride is worn away. It's a chisel that chips on honor until honor is worn away. She reminds readers that poverty means social exclusion. She remembers quitting school in junior high because nice children had been so cruel about my clothes and my smell. And this extends beyond to her children. She knows that your children won't play with her children because they are poor. She also forces us to think about what it's like to be a parent when you're poor. The author actually anticipates her readers' arguments by addressing them directly. She can anticipate, for example, that someone might say to her, "But there's schools." And then she responds by telling them that there are schools, but that her children have no supplies and they do not have health. And then she describes in vivid detail the problems that her children have. They have worms, they have infections, they have pink eye. So what are the effects on the reader? The images and descriptions in the essay force us to connect emotionally with her experience. All of her sensory details paint this picture and affect us deeply. Poverty is now someone real with a real story. It's hard to turn away as you read the essay. It forces us to question our stereotypes of the poor. It may make you feel guilt or pity or respect. But overall, it just asks us to open our eyes and challenges us after seeing poverty if we can be silent. So, just a reflection here. What is Poverty was written in 1971? Has the experience of poverty changed since then? Something to think about. And factually, in 1964, the poverty rate was 19%. In 1974, and this essay was written in the 70s, it was 11.2%. So it had been reduced, but you can still feel her personal experience of poverty. And it's not gone above 15.2% any year since then. So it's remained steady. So there are still 50 million people who suffer in poverty, and it persists, and the battle against it and how to combat it also persists. So now let's look at another essay, Pride by Dagoberto Gilbes. Just a little bit of background about this author. The author's mother was Mexican, his father was German. He's a tenured professor and has won many writing awards, and most of his works are set in El Paso or LA. His writing focuses on the working class and the Chicano community. So the essay title is Pride, and we've talked about words like pride and poverty meaning different things to different people. And to this author, pride is he takes pride in his culture and in his heritage. He actually said in an interview, "I'm much more interested in the little things in life. I focus on the very small things. Life is about experiences, and even if they are not the ones we wish we had, they are all significant." So you'll see that in this essay. In the essay, you can see the pride the author has for the land. The simile here that it is beautiful brown, that shows his love for the landscape. In Pride, the author defines the words with metaphors such as these. Pride is working a job like it's as important as art or war. Pride is the deaf and blind confidence of the good people who are too poor but don't notice. In Pride, look at the pride this assistant manager takes in doing his job well. So he illustrates that with specific examples. In Red, pride is working a job like it's as important as art or war. And then he gives us an example in the essay. This assistant manager takes pride in his work clothes. You can see he wears a brown starched and ironed uniform. He takes pride in taking care of the store, washing windows and sweeping. And he takes pride in taking care of his customers. Notice how he asks the young woman about getting her water pump. So he takes pride in taking care of his customers and caring about them. And in Pride, look at the pride, another section of the essay, the pride the high school graduate has. He has for his accomplishment of graduating, and he has for his dad. When he sees his dad, he feels pride, and his dad feels pride for his son. So you can see that in this section. He holds it back, hides the tears that do escape with his hands, wipes them with his fingers. So you can see the pride there. In Pride, look at the pride of the land and for the people, for their ancestors. You can see that here in the ending, seeing the beauty. Look out there from the height of the mountain and in front of and after the Rio Grande to the so far away and so close. So many miles more a fuzz on the wide horizon. knowing how many years the people have passed and have stayed, the ancestors, the ones who have meddled, limped back on crutches or died, or were heroes from wars in the Pacific or Europe or Korea or Vietnam or the Persian Gulf. And he lists all the people of the land and how proud he is of them. And then he ends once again, brown is like the skin is brown, beautiful brown. And he's describing there the desert or the land. So as you read the essay, look for examples of figurative language and imagery. There are a lot of metaphors, there's similes, there's personification. Here are some examples. And as you reflect on the meaning of this essay, consider what you are most proud of and how you would define pride. It will be different than this author. And just think about your own definition of pride. This is the end of this lecture.